Are you coming to the truth?
Hi, and welcome to episode 41 of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show that is all about talking about movies. I am Perri Nemiroff, and here are my co-hosts, Kristy, Puchko, and Angie.
Hey everybody. Hello.
So today we are going to talk about VHS Viral. What's the one that I didn't say?
A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yeah, that one. And The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. And we're going to start with VHS Viral. And I think I'm talking about that. So VHS Viral is the third installment of the VHS series, and in case you don't know how those work, they're horror anthologies, and this one was supposed to be 4 different horror short stories, but one got cut, so we only get 3.
It is 4, including the wraparound one.
No, but it was supposed to be 4 segments plus the wraparound.
Okay.
But one did not make the final cut. Oh well. But this one, I don't even know if I could even explain what the wraparound is. It is something with this deranged ice cream truck that is driving around town, and people think that they're going to go viral by getting video clips of this ice cream truck as it goes by, but it makes no sense whatsoever. And then
I'm so glad you said that. I felt crazy that I didn't understand it.
I was like, I must not be paying close enough attention
Yeah.
because
No.
I don't know what's going on.
It really blows my mind too, because this is a recurring problem with the VHS franchise. Every single
Everybody
one of those
hates
films,
the
and you know,
wraparounds, and they
I
don't exist.
absolutely love VHS 2. It was one of my favorite movies of last year, and that wraparound is still total garbage. They make no sense. I don't
No.
understand
And what's
why
the
is it
point?
so hard.
No.
They make
I
no
mean,
sense.
it just has to be a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Why?
Yeah.
I feel like if you're not going to do it right, why do
Why
it
are we
at all?
bothering?
We can just watch it without that. It would
That's
be
the
fine.
feeling I got.
But so there's other stories in it.
Should we touch on vaguely what each of them are
Vaguely,
about?
yeah,
All right,
let's
let's
do
talk
vague
about the
ones.
first one first. What was the guy's name? It's about some sort of magician guy.
Dante the Great.
Dante the Great. Who finds a cape and it lets him do real magic. And this
But at a terrible cost.
that is true. This one I liked a lot. I thought.
Are you kidding?
Really? I thought it was a lot of fun.
I thought it was so fucking predictable.
I thought it was
Oh.
hilariously amateurish.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
acting is so bad.
Ah.
The acting was flat out terrible. The production, I know it's a found footage movie, so the production values are not high, but the special effects were so bad that you could never forget that you were watching a really shitty, cheap movie.
Yeah.
Really? I liked
Yeah.
when she got sucked into the chair.
I thought it looked incredibly cheesy. I know that I'm not saying that we need $100 million CG effects, but you need to make it look a little bit
get
more
it.
believable or
I
find
can't-
some way around it.
I mean, I'm
And
just
the acting,
the polar
God,
opposite
It just
opinion.
felt like a Goosebumps episode that was just way more violent.
It did feel like a Goosebumps
Yeah.
episode, but I think I liked that.
I
Overall, I think this had more of a fun, silly Goosebumps type feel than
but
the
takes
past
itself
ones.
so seriously, which I feel is such a problem.
That was actually, I know we're not talking about the second one yet, but that was actually one of the things I liked more about the second one is that it is more
Was that the one-
purposely comedic. It's a parallel universe
Wow,
one.
Okay.
we're gonna have just the total opposite opinions on all these because I
This is
hated
interesting.
the second one, but I did think that the first one was fun. I liked the
Okay.
idea of the cape. I liked the powers it gave him, and I knew exactly what
I
was
think
going
I
to
would've
happen
liked
every
it
step
more
of the
if
way,
he
but it didn't
actually
matter.
I think I would have liked it more if he actually felt like those magicians that you see on TV, but it really just felt like someone cast their cousin. He's short and chubby and kind of hairy, and you're like, this guy would never be.
Well, that's the other thing. They're like, oh, this guy's an international superstar
Yeah.
magician, but it's but he looks like my cousin in a cheap cape.
Yeah,
And then, the cape that's
okay.
supposed to be
The cape-
magical
the
looks
cape
like
did
something
look
he
cheap.
got from those Halloween pop-up stores
Exactly.
for $10 from the clearance rack.
It was
But
I'll
wouldn't
give you-
that be funny if someone just walked into one of those pop-up stores, picked up a cape, and it just happened to be that cape?
But that's the thing. It's just what it's its attitude and its accomplishments are so different.
I think that's you hit it on the head. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I don't
Ah,
know.
I had
was
fun with
not
it.
fun with
Well, that's fine. Let's move
Yeah.
on to number 2.
All right, so number 2 is about a guy who builds. What are we even calling this?
A portal
He
to
built
a
a
parallel
A
universe.
portal, yeah, and it's kind of like a universe that's a mirror image of his universe,
And
but
seems
but,
exactly like
but
except
also
everything's mirror
slightly
image.
different. And I didn't like this one at
Well,
all.
what happens is they create a parallel universe, and since the other guy in the other universe is also him, they've both created this portal. They decide we're gonna switch places for 10 minutes because
that's
our lives are
probably
pretty
an
similar.
important detail to explain.
Because they're well, we're so similar. Let's switch for a few minutes and see what happens. But it
And,
turns out that there are some differences that they did not see coming.
Okay, and there are some things, and I don't want to give away the surprise of this movie, but I just want to say the puppetry of this infuriated me. It's so clearly a man's hand and an ugly puppet, and it just was so stupid looking, and it made me annoyed.
But that was the thing about this segment, is that since it wasn't taking itself as seriously, and since it was like more like actually trying to be funny, it didn't bother me that the special effects looked pretty silly, because I thought that was kind of part of the fun.
My
and I
husband
thought
came in during that part, and he's like, "What is happening?" And I was like,
My
"I don't know."
They came in during that part too and said pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're parallel universe twins.
I didn't have any problem with the way the puppet looked. I just didn't like the feel or the idea at all. And it's not, I'm not even criticizing
really
it for
know
like
it.
for being poorly executed.
Sure.
It was not my type of thing at all. I'm
Okay.
like, this is unappealing, it's not scary, I don't like watching this, and I was looking forward to the next one coming up.
I thought that it was, I mean, I thought that toward the end it kind of goes off the rails and it doesn't live up to the promise of the beginning, but especially in the beginning it's kind of funny, and unlike a lot of the other ones, like you kind of start out and you're just like, where is this going? Because it just kind of seems like funny and quirky.
Yeah.
I think that ultimately I wish that the twists had been smarter, because it kind of starts out feeling like a better movie than it ends up being.
And you said they were through their sort of four, so I want to kind of go quickly because we're running out of time.
Alright,
for the
so
segment.
number 3 is about a group of boys who are skateboarders, and like they have one kid who's making videos of them. And they go to, where do they travel
Tijuana.
to? They travel to Tijuana and
decide to skate park on what is clearly a Satan worshiping
yeah, they skate in this area, and it's kind of like there's drawings all over the ground. And sure enough, like you've seen it in the trailer, the guy with like the skull mask, and they just keep coming at them, and these kids have to fight them. This, I mean, all right, it was incredibly repetitive, but this is an instance where I liked the look, I liked the tone, it felt like
I
a music,
hated the
almost like a
look.
music video beat to me.
I felt like it made no sense that this was shot in found footage. I get that their whole concept is they're making skateboard movies.
Well,
but
that's
the action sequences
that's
are nonsensical.
That's a problem with this entire movie.
Yeah.
This is one of the poorest uses of found footage
Yes.
in every single one of them. The large majority of the time, there is either no reason for something to be shot, or you have no clue who the fuck is holding
They're
that
shooting
camera.
yeah.
There
That
were
drives me
so
nuts.
many scenes where I was distracted, like throughout all the segments, where like you'd be like, you know, you'd see like two people talking, someone's shooting them, but it's still supposed to be found footage. So I'm like, am I supposed to believe that the guy's like,
Hey,
yeah.
so like, how's it
None
going?
of that made
Like,
any
it didn't
sense.
make exactly. So like, that was a pet peeve I have, but I can let that kind of shit go because this is not trying to be a smart horror movie. But like, I didn't even find it scary, and again,
It wasn't scary.
Oh,
It
yeah,
wasn't scary.
and like the first one, it felt so misogynistic. Because women in this movie are either ruining dudes' good times, or have monster vaginas. Again.
And there are
with the monster vaginas.
there are
I
like
like the monster
8
vagina from
boob
the first
shots. There are like 8 boob shots. Like there are 8 shots.
Oh,
of, like, just,
also
like,
one of
women's,
an
like,
old
tits
woman
and
because,
just, like,
guys, women's boobs when they get older gross. That's the message. Like
that's
this
the
movie-
only boobs that we
this is
actually
such-
see like without the bra. The other ones
Yeah.
are just like heaving bosoms and like push
Oh,
up
and then it's
bras.
creepy because there's that section where you're staring at this girl in her underwear, and then they basically tell you that she's a victim of revenge porn. So then you're supposed to, I guess, feel bad about looking at her, but it's like, but you made us look at her and then gave this, like, it's trying to be like, no, we know what we're doing. It's like, no, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, but it's still a movie that feels like it's made by frat dudes.
Yes.
No, it definitely
The
feels
whole,
that
I felt
way.
like, I mean, it would be one thing if it was just like, oh, like this segment had a little bit of that and whatever, but it kind of felt like one of the themes throughout was that it felt really misogynistic. It
Dude,
was,
women's
like,
bodies
so-
are hot, but also gross. Like, that was like a running theme.
I mean, overall, I think the production value is just so far below VHS 2
Yeah.
that even though I
doesn't
found
compare.
some of these to be like, you know, like
I also
decent
thought-
enough watches, the fact that it's such a big step back, because like I got all hyped up about VHS 2 because I'm like, holy shit, if they keep doing this and they keep doing it this way, this can compete with like regular feature narratives. Like this has a shot at breaking into the mainstream
Yeah.
just a little, but like
This
not
is
with
not
what
inventive,
not with
it's-
what they did here. No.
No,
So
it's
how
just-
would you rank them?
I would probably say my favorite is VHS 2. I actually
No,
enjoyed that one.
of the segments in this
Oh,
one.
of the segments in this one.
I'm gonna rank them based on which one I like to watch. I'm not saying I want to watch anyone again, but if I had to watch
Yeah.
another one right now, I'd actually probably pick the skateboarding one, then I would do the magician one, and then I would do the parallel universe one.
Wow.
And nobody ever needs to watch the wraparound narrative that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense.
that's
I would
pointless.
put the magician one up top, but again, I didn't like it that much. I just didn't hate it. Like the parallel universe one, I just thought was like an interesting concept, but sloppy, and
Yeah.
I didn't get why they were doing the things they were doing in the places they went. And then the fucking skateboard one, like, that made me feel old. That made me feel like I don't understand kids today.
Well, a
This
lot of
what
it is
they're
like
watching.
teenagers kind of like sitting around shooting the breeze, and I'm like, this is so boring.
For
That's
so
what I
long.
didn't like about the skateboarding one, was that I found it incredibly boring, and the way that, and it's so repetitive that it felt to me like I was watching someone else play a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Watching someone else play it is
Oh, it does
fun.
feel like that at one point distinctly.
It does
I
feel like that, but I kind of like looking at it for that reason.
I like the parallel universe one, and then I like the magician one, and then I like the skateboarding one, and once again, nobody needs to watch the wraparound narrative.
Yeah, so
fucking
it sounds
wraparound.
like none of us would recommend this movie.
No, there's a lot more, especially on VOD right now.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want a horror movie and you want to watch it on VOD this second, go on and watch Housebound, because that is a fantastic movie. Have either of you seen that?
No.
Oh my god.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode, because right now we should move on to
You
our
would
next-
like that. Let's table that discussion.
We'll table it.
But
We'll bring it
I'm
back.
betting.
But we're going to move on to A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which sounds kind of like a Mad Libs for independent film. It is the first ever feminist Iranian Western vampire movie. It's in black and white. Its main character doesn't have a name, and it's amazing. Angie and I went to see it kind of being like, oh, okay, I don't know. But it's actually really cool. It's about this town called Bad City, and it's this like ghost town where everybody living there is kind of on the fringe, and there's one guy who looks a lot like James Dean except Persian in that he is like hot and he wears the shirts with the
Yeah, he's got like this like rockabilly style thing
Yeah.
going. He's always wearing like the rolled up t-shirts and like the blue jeans and
Yeah, and like he's trying to not be a shitty human being in this town, but it's kind of hard not to be and whatever. But he crossed paths with the girl who, what I love about the title is, and I wrote about this in my review for Cinema Blend, when you hear the phrase, a girl walks home alone at night, I feel like your instant thought is something terrible will happen to her.
yes.
And what's so cool is from the very first frames of setting up the girl, who wears like a head-to-toe headscarf, is that you don't get that feeling that she's at risk. You get the feeling that she is the risk. And it's this really great reversal where she is a vampire, and the way they tell this story about the two of them, and it's sort of a romance, and it's sort of, it goes into all these places, and its influences are just strange
Can you put
and
it in a
unusual.
genre for me?
I really have a hard time doing that, because it's like they're calling it a vampire western, which makes sense.
That's
Okay.
I think that vampire western is probably about the most accurate
Yeah,
thing I can
alright,
think of,
alright.
but it's actually even weirder than that. It's very much its own thing, and I know that sounds like a complete
And
cop
it's
out,
funny
but it
because
really
there's-
did feel like it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like anything else.
It's
I've
pulling
seen.
influences from a lot of places, like there's
As you
parts
can
of it-
tell by how many things Kristy rattled off when she was describing it.
Right, like some of my favorite scenes are when the girl goes to her apartment and she just dances, and it's like her in just like a white and black long sleeve t-shirt dancing, and it's so intoxicating and interesting to watch, and it reminded me of like Iranian New Wave or French New Wave, but like you don't need to have a concept of what those are to enjoy this film. It's just kind of fascinating and weird and funny, and like parts of it are scary. Oh, and there's that pimp that has tattoos that Angie and I are obsessed with.
Oh, okay. So there's a guy in there who he's a pimp because
Yeah.
this is a western, so
And a drug
people always
dealer.
have jobs like that.
Yeah.
And he just has it becomes like kind of a silent running joke that he has the worst tattoos.
They just keep revealing them and they get worse.
Like he
and worse.
has like the word like sex like clumsily tattooed across like
in
his
English.
neck.
Like
Yeah.
the whole movie is in another
Or like
language.
he has
but-
like I forget what some of the other ones
There's
were.
one point where we're in his apartment and he has like tiger print everything, and you're just like, you were a gaudy douchebag. And then he pulls his shirt off and he has a tiger tattoo on his stomach, and I could not stop laughing.
It's a movie. It's like one of those movies. It's actually really funny in like those like kind of weird secretive ways, like
Yeah.
or not secretive, but subtle ways. That's what I meant.
It's one of those movies that critics are talking about a lot right now, and it can seem kind of strange because you're like, I don't know, I feel like it sounds like a critic movie. You're like, well, of course, critics like weird, super shit, whatever.
It
But,
kind of
like,
is a critic movie.
And I can see that, but I also feel like this is a movie that like 14-year-old me would have went nuts over, because it is it is referencing all these things, but it does feel like distinctly its own thing, and it's such an interesting take on what the horror genre is. And like parts of it are scary, but it's more using vampires as this kind of like attempt to flip the tables,
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the other unusual vampire movie that we've talked about this year, Only Lovers Left Alive.
Another one that I have not seen.
Because it kind of has the same, like, you're like, oh, it's going to be a vampire movie, and you
Yeah.
expect, like, A, B, and C, and then they just kind of go a different way with it, and so much of it is, it's kind of, A Girl Walks Home Alone, and that is kind of, like, slow, and a lot of it is just kind of, like, mood and tone and
Yeah.
style.
Yeah, and It's funny because it's just little things like watching her skateboard down an empty street in a head-to-toe
While
scarf.
it's like fluttering behind her like a
She's a
superhero
fucking
cape.
superhero.
It's like
It's
there are
so
so many images that I was
mesmerizing.
like, I want to just like capture it and
I
just
was
like put it in my
anxious.
pocket.
I was anxious because it was black and white, because I was saying to a friend of ours who's also was the PR rep for this movie, that I was like, I just get uncomfortable when it's black and white a lot of times. I feel like it's like being like, look, we're black and white. But this movie, it actually made sense to me that it was black and white. It kind of created that zone. And the thing I really liked is that I described in my review that she has blood red lips, and it's like, it's black and white, how do you know that? But then there's a point where she does have blood on her lips, and you're like, oh, then that lipstick she put on was that color. It's this kind of fun, it's just really, it's so hard to explain. It felt like the Twilight Zone or something, but like less punchy.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like a dream.
I can't figure out if I'm
Dream,
gonna like this or
yes.
I don't know if you will, but I really want you to see
not. I
it.
feel like it's a toss-up for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like you were saying that it's, you were saying that it sounds like a critic movie, and I think it kind of does. Like, it's not a movie that I think, honestly, I really liked it, but I don't think it has big mainstream appeal.
No.
But I feel like if the stuff that we're saying sounds intriguing
Yeah.
to you, if you're like, oh, that sounds like something.
I feel like
to
if you
check
like
out.
David Lynch, if you've sought out Nosferatu, if you like Jim Jarmusch movies, then you'll like this.
Mhm.
It's definitely a niche movie, but it just feels so special for that. Like, I really loved all the weird choices. I'm forgetting her name. I want to say, like, Anna Lily Napor. Is that right?
The last name I think you read, I don't know. I don't remember what her
I'm
first
sorry,
name
guys. It's been a long day. But yeah, she's done an outstanding job, and you're going to see interviews with her all over the place because, yeah, a lot of critics are crazy about this movie. And it was funny because we saw it in one of the first critics' screenings in New York. And, like, people were kind of being like, I don't know, people are saying a lot about this. And everybody was kind of, like, ready to have an opinion. Like, everybody was, like, pumped. And we all kind of came out there being like, well, that was something really fun and special. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, like everything about it, just like the world that she sets up, it doesn't feel like what I think Iran would probably feel like. I've never been there. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like America, despite being a Western. It doesn't really feel like anything, and it's got this like weird timeless quality. And one of the things we were talking about afterwards was we were trying to figure out what year this is supposed to take place in, and you really can't tell. It's just a movie that kind of. It's its own thing. It's like created its own world.
I'm trying to find the name of the actress who plays Sheila Vand. Sheila Vand plays the girl, and I want to see her in everything.
She's one of those actresses that even when she's not talking, just like with a look, she can tell you, like she commands a screen and she tells you everything that you need to know about her, just
And,
like
like,
with a look.
It's funny because there's these big moments in the scene where she does like kill people or she attacks somebody, but then there's like a little moment where he gets her earrings and she doesn't have pierced ears, and she's like, pierce them, and he pierces her ears, and it's such an intimate, strange
Well,
little
he's
moment.
penetrating her.
It's true, but it's in this very, it was actually really beautiful, and it's like outside of like a power plant, so it's like not a, like it's not, it shouldn't be a romantic venue, but it just feels so subtle, like delicate, and I loved it.
There is a cat in it.
There is?
Mhm.
And yeah, and I feel like we
And nothing bad happens
No,
to the cat,
I
right?
remember us having this conversation that we could tell Perri successfully there was a cat and nothing bad happens to the cat.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright.
Yeah. And it's a gigantic cat.
Really?
Yeah, apparently this cat is the only one eating well in Bad City.
That's true.
But I think we could move on to our final
There's
film.
actually a great transition, too. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's another really big cat.
It's true.
That eats really well. Like a really poor setting.
Despite everything. But yeah, I think Angie and I would say if this sounds interesting to you, absolutely say go.
So yes, let's segue into our last movie, which is quite different. It's called The Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 1. It does have a cat in it, a huge fucking cat. Everyone else in Panem is fucking starving. This cat is gigantic. But anyway, so if you remember the last film, Catching Fire, left off with Katniss and a few other of the tributes being rescued from the Hunger Games arena and discovering that there was all along this, plot that people were working with District 13 to like overthrow the Capitol and all that stuff. This one picks up where that left off with Katniss now in District 13, which is run by President Elma Coyne, played by Julianne Moore. Right?
Yeah. No, you
Oh,
don't.
you gave me a look and I was like, oh, did I get it wrong?
No, you're getting it.
Okay.
You
And
always get the most convoluted plots.
I do. And a lot of the movie is taken up with, so Katniss is here, Peeta has been captured by the Capitol and has been taken prisoner, so him and Joanna are over in the Capitol. Katniss is obviously very upset about this, and she's hanging out in District 13 with Gale and Finnick and her mom and her sister and Beetee and a bunch of other people. And the main thing in this movie is that the people of District 13 have are trying to get the message out. So they're organizing all these rebellions, and one of the things that they are working on is having Katniss kind of be the face of the rebellion. She's the Mockingjay, and they're shooting all these videos with her, propaganda videos. Does that about cover it? It's the first half. It's the first half of the story. Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. So I think that's kind of why it feels a little bit incomplete by design. I thought that this was actually really good, and I remember when I first heard that they had split it into 2 movies, I was just like, oh, okay, here we go.
Oh,
but
I
actually thought that I actually thought that it justified the running time well enough that I was not mad about it.
Okay, so when they first announced it, I'm like, good idea, because that book has so much in it, and it feels so rushed. Maybe they'll have time to flesh it all out and make all of these little things that happen feel a little more justified, but...
Katniss keeps getting knocked out, and then she wakes up and people go, hey, while you were out, all this stuff happened. And
I have a question for you guys, though.
Yeah.
So, this is part 1 of part 2. Do you think we need to assess it as its own movie, or is it fair to assess it as a part 1 of a 2-part experience,
I think
Because
both
like
are
a lot of people I'm hearing are complaining that it doesn't feel like a complete story, and they're like,
I don't
well, it
agree
feels
with
like
that.
a part 1. How is that okay? But like personally, I'm fine
I
with
think
it.
what it is like as I was recounting the plot just now, I'm realizing that it feels incomplete because it is. But when I was in the theater and when I walked out of the theater, I didn't walk out feeling unsatisfied. I didn't walk out feeling like, they gave me half the movie.
I feel like because it says part 1, people are like thinking of that. But I genuinely feel like if they had just not left part 1 and if they had given the 4th one some other title, being like Mockingjay Begins Again or whatever, some stuff, shit like that, I feel like people wouldn't be as caught up on that because, Hunger Games was not, like, Hunger Games told a part of a story. And then at the end of it, like, she was alive, but we knew the President Snow was still furious with her. Catching Fire, she gets out, but, like, Peeta's left behind.
I don't think it really tells a complete story. I think it's fine. I think that there's enough kind of closure and, like, enough, they pay off enough things.
I think that the quest of this one is about rescuing Peeta.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess so.
No, I think that they picked the perfect place to end.
Yeah.
They did
And also
pick the
because
right place,
what's to come from here is going to feel, it's going to feel part of the same story, but it's going to feel very different. Like, knowing what's to come, they're going to have one heck of an explosive
it's a huge
ending.
turn to where to go from here. And I like the way they did it because one thing that the movie did, thankfully, is that a lot of stuff that she's just told in the book were shown, including some scenes of District Rebellion that were just mind-blowing to me.
This is a perfect example of someone changing source material to fit the new medium.
And it works.
I mean, there was that scene in District 7 where they climb up the trees. That was incredible. And being able to see the dam explode before they go into the Capitol, it's like that almost made their mission make more sense because I saw what it took to make that happen, and now I believed it. And then I don't think that the intercutting between Finnick's speech and the rescue mission played particularly well. I think it was just like a sloppy editing thing more than anything. But to be able to see what it took when they went in there, that because like in the book, she falls asleep, wakes up, and Haymitch is just like,
hey,
back,
BT
and
dubs.
that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I'm not going to say what the final scene is, but I feel like the final sequence of this was done spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember because Kristy and I went to see it together, and in the theater there was just like a stunned silence at one point where everyone's like, "What?
What's happening? What's gonna happen?"
And then like you could kind of feel the entire like theater like kind of like breathe a sigh of relief when like the movie then like
because the movie.
continued on
I
from
feel like
it.
we could say there's a point where the movie acts like it's over,
and everyone was just like, "What?"
Yeah, like you could just feel.
Oh, I know exactly.
And then the movie like and they completely fake you. They fuck with you on purpose. They're trolling you because the screen goes black for just long enough. That
It's
I was like,
5
should I be
seconds.
getting
I saw it again and I counted.
And then the whole entire theater kind of like collectively is like, oh, okay, thank God.
But meanwhile, it wasn't even. It continues on, but what they end on isn't much of a sigh of a relief either.
No, it's not. I think
it's a completion to the point.
Yeah, no,
And I
exactly.
think that's like it really made sense to me. I wrote for Cinema Blend that I really genuinely feel like they broke this into 2 films at just the spot they should have.
Yeah.
I think it's really well executed.
I think, that was actually where I was guessing that they were gonna split it because I think it's the most.
It was funny
makes
because my
sense.
husband was like, I saw the first time without him, and I came home and he's like, I think I know where they split the movie.
Was he right?
He was dead on.
No, of
I
course.
think that's probably the most It's the part of the book that makes the most sense. I want to
Yeah.
talk about one other big change that they made from the book that I
think I know where you're
loved.
going.
Effie.
Effie.
Oh my god!
So in the books, she's not in the third book. Is it at all? Or
At all.
She's at the very, very end.
They presume
Okay.
that she is.
They assume she's dead, but then you find
the
out
whole
that
time,
she's been a prisoner. But like, yeah, she's not in the. She's
But
not
in-
active.
But in the movie, it turns out that she has been taken, like, she's a political refugee in District 13. And
She's not into it. She's not happy about it.
she's not into it because she's like, I've been resigned to a life of jumpsuits, and I'm not doing
Great
justice to the way she says it.
And
It's
it's my
amazing.
wigs.
And what she does with her outfits too,
love it.
It's
I don't
much
think I
better off
realized-
this way because
Yeah.
we've grown attached to Effie over the other two films, and they never really did much with Katniss's prep team. So it's like that void still needed to
Exactly.
be filled in this movie, and to do that with the prep team would have been pointless.
Yeah, because in the
But to do
books,
it with Effie
in the books,
is
it's
very
that Katniss
successful.
finds her prep team for
Right.
Cinna, and she reconnects with them. But
I don't think I didn't realize how much I missed and needed Effie until she
Yeah.
showed up,
Well,
and I like,
you need that like breath of fresh air
It's
almost,
a very
and then
different
the
movie.
comedic relief.
That's so
'cause-
funny. That is legit how I described it. I wrote a piece for
Yeah.
Summer Blend about how Effie is the MVP of this movie because the movie is brilliant. And again, Jennifer Lawrence kills it. She's so good in this. But it's such a bleak movie where so much
Yeah.
is going on that it's just upsetting. And then they literally, and it's funny because the second time I went to see it, knowing what was going to be behind the door, whenever they introduce her, I listened for it and I could actually hear people like inhale and be like, like Effie, and like I love District 13 Effie where she's just like she can't have her makeup, she doesn't have her wigs, and she's trying so hard to like hold on to who she is, which is a fashionista, even when she's in like a shitty situation.
One thing I liked about it is she is the comic relief, but she's not just the comic relief.
No,
like I
she's
think
not
you
just-
actually
she
get
brings
to
heart
know
to
her.
it.
Yeah, you actually get to
And
know
I
her very
think
well. And
that's-
one thing that you just said about how she's very true to herself to being a fashionista, and she is able to kind of like use that to contribute in her own way.
Yeah,
It
I thought
also
that was so
brings the
important.
whole picture together,
Yes.
and like that actually touches on the District 7 and District 5 stuff too, because it's like it's one thing to have a war movie told from Katniss's perspective, which is what we get in the book.
Yeah.
But in the movie, like it completely changes the game to see how all of that affects the
It's
rest
a lot
of the
less
country.
insular.
And like Effie's also part of that because it's like it's the capital
That's
right
what she-
there,
yeah.
and see how she
Yeah.
changes and adapts. So it really helps you get a better sense of what's really going on
Exactly,
there.
and like I feel like this is all has to do with how Elizabeth Banks has been playing Effie. That like we as
I think
fans
that
didn't
she
want to
gives.
lose her.
I think that she gives the character more depth than she had in the book.
Absolutely,
The script
absolutely.
helps too, but I just feel like so much of it is like Elizabeth Banks and the way that even when she says like the most like silliest thing, she kind of imbues it with so much
I
personality.
also
and, like,
super love her and Hamish flirting ever so briefly in this. Like I didn't expect to want that, and then I was really into it. But yeah, that's funny. And my favorite thing that she says is she looks, and I think it's in one of the trailers, she looks at Katniss and says, everyone's either going to want to kill you, kiss you, or be you. And it's like so, I love it.
And it plays even better in the movie than it does in the trailer.
Yeah, it
You know,
does.
you know what the one thing in this movie that I really disliked?
What?
Can you guess what it is? No.
Is
Oh,
it
that she's mean
is
to the
it-
cat?
Yeah, is it
No.
that she's
Oh,
mean to the
no.
cat?
No,
That's
I
what
was
I was
trying
That's
to
gonna
say.
gonna
hurt, but
I
Katniss isn't into it.
I was prepared
You
for
would
that.
think
No.
someone named Katniss.
I
I mean, Cat is right there. in
I
the name.
think that they could have completely taken Gale out of this movie.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no, you're right. In the books, I remember being more conflicted about am I Team Peeta or Team Gale. In the movies,
I
I'm just
was
like
never
Team Peeta,
conflicted.
Team
Gale's a
Peeta,
dick.
Team Peeta.
Yeah. That's how I never really got that while I
No.
was reading the book.
But when I was reading the book, like I think
It was a thing. It was a thing that people kept talking about, but I think because Twilight was also a thing at the time, and so then people
Yeah.
were like, "Are you Team Peter or Team Gale?" And I read the book, and I was like, "How is that?"
But like in the book, I never was weighing the options between the two of them. It was always Peeta. But at the same
was a little
time,
bit
in
more,
the
but-
in the book, I still got the sense that like Gale was her rock, and that was her
Yeah.
piece of home.
you
and
kind of
he was
get
her protective.
you get a better
Here,
idea of
he
like
just-
why
he's
she.
like just like this shadow
No,
following
I also
her. And I'm
think
like,
that's. I don't get Liam Hemsworth. I don't
There's
understand.
nothing to
Yeah,
him.
there's just.
He's like Stoneface, and like when he was in District 12 at the end, telling that story of how he
Yeah.
rescued people, there was nothing to that at
Yeah.
all.
I don't
It's like I'm-
think that. I don't think.
Physically, the casting makes sense because he
I
looks
don't-
so different from Peeta, but like
I don't want to
think-
blame him, but like then you see what Josh Hutcherson can do
Yeah.
with just like
Oh
looking
my
at
God.
a camera and reading these things. I mean, there's such a bigger like physical performance.
I'm
Involved
like getting
in that.
upset remembering Peeta's scenes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
The Peeta
okay.
scenes.
that transformation, holy,
Yeah,
the
it's
fact that they
upsetting.
can do that to a person is incredible.
I also love like the
has
little.
to be CGI, right?
I don't know how they did it, but like they needed an award for what they did to him.
I just
One really fun detail, oh not fun, but one detail is like when every time you see PETA, you notice that his clothes are getting more and more like constricting, and it's like a weird, like, it's like the kind of detail that I picked up because I was watching closely.
Also,
And it's just, but like you look at it and you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
well done, movie. Like
Seriously.
that's like such a
There's
little
a lot
thing
of, there
that
are
is
a lot
so
of really
effective.
like fun little details too. You know what else I really liked? I liked being able to see Coin in like that little command center when they were being bombed, because you know in the book
we don't get to see that.
You don't get to see that, but you also don't ever really get to see her lead. Like
That's
I
true.
like that we got to see
Yeah.
a scene, and that scene made me believe, you know, that is why you're the president
Yeah.
of District 13.
I think the movie is actually better than the book.
I will totally agree
with that. And I think we need to wrap up, but I do want to say also, Philip Seymour Hoffman's really wonderful in this.
You know, I was almost taken out of the movie because every time he kills it in
so
a scene,
good.
I'm just like, oh, like no.
Yeah. It's and they do dedicate the movie to him.
He's like remarkable in this though.
He creates a really
I don't think
complex
he's capable of
character.
ever not being remarkable in things.
It was really wonderful. I highly recommend. I feel like you have to see this movie.
I think the only thing that might take away from this, or at least that took away from it a little bit for me, which is why I would probably rank Hunger Games and Catching Fire as like more enjoyable movies for me, is that I appreciated the structure of the games. It's like when I came out of those movies and went back in for a second viewing, as I was watching it, I'm like, okay, we're up to this part, yay! And then all of a sudden it's the reaping, then it's the chariot thing, then they're gonna go into the arena. Like you don't have that here. It's kind of just like, I mean, it has structure, it's got a proper pace, and it flows well.
I think that the adaptions the screenwriters did a really great job of creating a pace that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel meandering. Like I think the third book feels meandering.
Yes.
The movie doesn't to me. But
It's
I totally
just
see what you're
it's
saying.
not the same structure, so like I longed for that
Sure.
a little
I
bit,
think I felt
but
the
it
same
doesn't
way when I
make
read the
this,
book.
you know, any less of a great movie.
This has been my favorite Hunger Games movie so far. I've seen it twice. I really like it. I think the performances are outstanding. I think the comments it's making about politics is really interesting.
It's really smart. I kind of like, well, after this is the fourth fucking dystopian teen YA adaptation we've seen this year, and I tweeted about this. I was like, I just felt like Hunger Games, like, you know, kind of let the other ones go by, and then walked in and was like, this is how it's done.
It's
Drop the
true.
mic, get the fuck out of here.
It makes me so happy that I've spent so many years of my life covering this, and then like these movies are coming out, and it's deserving all the hype, all the attention, all the money.
Yeah.
Like, good for them. Thank you for making all
Bravo,
the
Hunger
effort
Games.
worthwhile.
Lionsgate, you killed it on the marketing.
Seriously.
Jesus. And one of the things is, like, I remember when I was watching the movie, like, I didn't even realize how much of the marketing had soaked in, but, like, you would hear, like, a song, like, the District TV song, and I would immediately just, like, tense up, just, like, from
it's
having seen the
incredible.
teasers, and I was just like, holy shit, Lionsgate, like, you actually made the marketing part of the movie, which is, like, which you never
And I
see.
also just want to say that the song that Katniss sings in this, I cannot get out of my head.
I keep walking around like
It's
whistling
not on the
and humming
soundtrack,
it.
but it is going to be on the score, so I probably will have to buy
Yeah.
So, in
All right.
sum,
Definitely.
all the thumbs up.
Hunger Games all around.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a wrap on this episode. You can find us all over the place. We have our own website, popcornprosecco.com. We are on Twitter at popcornprosecco. We are on iTunes, and that is where we would like you to go and leave comments and like us and rate us and all that good stuff. Watch us on YouTube, put some comments there. Maybe we'll talk about like the topics you bring up on next week's show. And we are also on Twitter ourselves as well, and all over the internet too. Kristy, you want to take it first?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Kristy Puchko. That's at KRISTYPUCHKO. Really long day, guys. Almost forgot how to spell my name. And you can find my career highlights on decadentcriminals.com because I write all over the interwebs.
You can find me at AJHAN on Twitter, and I write for slashfilm.com.
And I'm at Nemiroff on Twitter, and I write for Collider.com. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. I feel like we should like...
Oh! No, they go like this, yeah.
And then we're out of frame.
Oh, yep, there we go.